The Sikha we will be learning tonight is Mekutei Sichas Chelik Chavov, the second Sikha for Parshas Beshalach. In Parshas Beshalach, it talks about the Mon. When the Yidden were in the desert, in the Midbar, the Eibishter would send down Mon every day, and that was their food. So state in Tur, so the Rebbe brings, it says in Tur, in Erachayim, the beginning of Shulchan Aruch Erachayim, as Tev Leimer the Parshas Amon Yedin Tog, that it's good to say the Parsha, that section, that Parsha, portion of the Torah that talks about the Mon, it's good to say it every day. When the Tam Daruf steht in Bes Yosef, and the reason for it says in Bes Yosef is Rabbi Yosef Cairo, who wrote a commentary on the Torah, which is called Bes Yosef, and then he himself wrote the Shulchan Aruch later, as a Shulchan Aruch. So he writes in his commentary on the Torah, he writes that the reason why it's good to say the Parsha of the Mon every day, Kedei sheyamin shekom zeneisov boim leib hashgacha. In order for a person to believe, it brings a person to believe that all his food, which doesn't only mean food, food is a general expression for all his needs, that all the needs come from Bahashgacha, means Hashem takes care of it. It's from Hashem. And exactly how that shows it, we'll see a second in the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch Shel Imadura Kame, the Alter Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch, Imadura Kame, means the Alter Rebbe wrote the Shulchan Aruch, all those simonim that we have in the Shulchan Aruch. Then the Alter Rebbe started rewriting the Shulchan Aruch. So the first version is called Madura Kame. Kame is first, the first version, and then the Madura Tinyone, the second version, or Madura Basra, we call it, and the later version is what he wrote. But he only wrote, at least what we have, is that he rewrote the first four simonim. So this inyan about the Parshas Amon is written in Madura Kame, the first version of the Shulchan Aruch. In Madura Tinyone, the second version, it's also there. But there are differences between the first version and the second. And from now on, we'll use the Loshen for the first version of Madura Kame, for the second version of Madura Tinyone, or Madura Basra. So the Alter Rebbe, when he brings this inyan in Madura Kame, is maitik dem din from Tur. He quotes the din of the Torah that's good to say the Parsha of the Mon every day, and he brings the reason of the Bes Yosef that we said before, in order to believe that all the person's needs come from the Eibishter, from the Eibishter's Hashgacha. When it's meisiv the beer for Levush, but Alter Rebbe adds something that the Levush, another commentary, another type of halacha sefer, that he adds more explanation to this. That we say it's good to say the parshas of the Mon every day, so this will bring you to believe that everything that you get, all your needs come from the Eibush. And he adds, how do we see it from the Mon? Shekein hoye b'Mon. That's what it was by the Mon. Sheishgiach HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo says l'chol echad emer malgelis chol nafshes beise. The Eibush took care that every member of the family would have an aimer. An aimer is a certain amount of mon for every head. Every person would have. Like it says, it says when they went out every day to collect the mon, everybody came back and he measured, he had an aimer. But the one that collected more did not have more. And the one that collected less did not miss. Everybody got a mon. So here we see that it comes from the Eibishter. It's the control of the Eibishter, what you're going to get. So when you say Parshas Amon and you keep this in mind, it reminds you that whatever you get is the Eibishter makes it happen. As we see by the Mon, there it was very obvious the Eibishter made it happen because everyone got the same amount, no matter how much they collected, because that's what the Eibishter gave him. In the second Madura, in the second version, that the Alter Rebbe says, is a Meshana, he changes. He says the same thing, but he changes. Instead of bringing the reason of the Bes Yosef and the Levush that we said before, he brings another thing. He says, Parshas Hamon, the reason why we say Parshas Hamon, Lifteach b'Hashem, to have bitochen in Hashem. Bitochen means to be sure that Hashem will help you. Hashem will give you the bread every day, which means just like in the Mon, every day they got the Mon, Hashem gave it every day. So when you read the Parshas Hamon, it reminds you to trust in Hashem, that Hashem will provide for you. So we see a change in the Madura Tinyone for the Madura Kame. What is the change? In two ways, two things. Now, in the Bes Yosef says the word sheyamin, you should believe. And the Alter Rebbe writes, lifteach. The Bes Yosef says, I look back, he should believe that all his mezanis comes from the Hashgacha, from the Eibishter. And the Alter Rebbe says, lifteach, to have trust. Bitochen and emunah are two separate things. Emunah is to believe, and bitochen is to have trust that Hashem will give it to you. So the Alter Rebbe writes Liftoyach. A second thing, a bringt nicht the minyan imon, as es given by Ashgocha Protis, Eimer Lagalgel, Zechol Nafshas Beise. When he describes the mon and what's the idea of saying the mon, he doesn't bring this idea that the Ashgocha Protis, the divine providence, was that every person happened to get an Eimer no matter what. He doesn't bring that. Nor he says something else, what we see from the mon. Ados was the Eibishter, the mon gegeben noch Hanan var yem beyemei. The fact that the Eibishter gave the mon every single day, steady, that's supposed to bring out, awakening in a person, the bitochen, the trust. The Eibishter is neisen lechem var yem beyemei. That the Eibishter gives bread every day. That's a different thing. So the union of the way it says in Bes Yosef, which is Kadesh Yamin, is to have a munah, to believe that everything comes from the Eibishter. That's one thing. Like by the Mon, the Eibishter made sure you get it the way he wanted. So Eibishter, and in there it says the union of a betocha means you trust that the Eibishter will give you, just like by the Mon. And the Rebbe says, simply the two changes. One that instead of in the Bes Yosef writes Munah, and the Alter Rebbe writes bitochen. And the second thing that Bes Yosef is to believe that everything comes from the Eibishter. And the Alter Rebbe writes to have trust that the Eibishter will give you every day, that these two changes are connected. The Inyan in Mon, this idea by Mon, that the Eibishter made sure that everyone gets an Eimer for every head, for every member of the family. And the one that collected more didn't get more. The one that collected less didn't get less. Is mechazik the Munah ba'yid. That is something that strengthens the Munah ba'yid. As eine Mezeines kommen nicht von Keichveitz Miodi, that makes a person realize that his food doesn't come, or everything else that he gets doesn't come from his own strength. Like the Pasuk uses the lotion, a person should not say Keichveitz Miodi, my own keach and the strength of my hand did it. So by knowing, thinking about the Mon and realizing that everyone got whatever the Eibishter wanted, nothing more. So that's mechazik the Munah. That the Yid has the Emunah, the real belief in the Eibishter, that his Mezeines doesn't come from his own, nor boinly b'ashgocha from the Eibishter. They come b'ashgocha from the Eibishter. As we saw by the Mon, the Pulas von Odem of Lit Mishane given, that whatever a person did not change in the Kamas Hamon, in the amount of the Mon, but the Eibishter had bestimmt und gegeben l'cholech. The Eibishter established and wanted everyone to get. So we see from the Mon the concept that it comes from, everything comes from the Eibishter. In the Mon, it was very obvious. The thing from bitochen aber is, when you say bitochen, it's a different thing. It's not nur am engleibt as mezeneisiv shlodim kumma von Eibishter. It's not only that you believe that your food, everything comes from Hashem, nor as mefarlos sich auf dem Eibishter. We rely on Him. As wird im sicher zustellen mezeneisiv. Bitochen means you are sure that the Eibishter will give you your needs, will give you your food and your needs. Und der Minyan bitochen lernt man up from them. This idea of bitochen that you have, they're supposed to have, we learn it from the Mon, but which part of the Mon? From the fact that the Eibishter had the Mon gegeben, the fact that the Eibishter gave the Mon every day, constantly, steady. Everybody relied on Hashem, had no worries going to have food tomorrow, relied on Hashem. So there are two things, but they're connected. So when you're talking about that the Mon should teach you to believe that Hashem gives you everything, so there you use the Amunah. That Amunah means you believe that the Eibishter gives you everything. If you want to bring out the point that it shows you that you should rely on Hashem, that's bitochen. That's a different point. Bitochen, you see in the Mon that the Yidden relied on Hashem, just like over there they were sure that the Eibishter will give him their food every day. So now also you rely on Hashem. Hashem will provide you whatever He has to give you. So that we understand the changes. As over Deira Shasbora, what we need to understand. My time, what's the reason? Was in Bes Yosef and Lavush. Why is it that the Bes Yosef and the Lavush, and so too the first version of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, brings sich dringe from Kadesh Yamin? There he brings in order to believe with the expression, the pshat we said before, to believe that everything comes from the Eibishter. Why is that's what they bring over there? Und Dafke Madura Tinyon is that Alter Rebbe Mishane, and only in the second version the Alter Rebbe changes und sagt dem Tam Lifteach Vashem Neisen Lechem Vayem B'Yemei. There he says it's supposed to bring out in a person to have bitochen, that Hashem will give you what you need every day, like He did by the Mon. Why is it over here like this and it's here like this? Now, so far it's just a question why over here he talks about this reason and this point, why over here he talks about another point. The Rebbe is going to say now that's not just a difference in points. It could be a difference in halacha, which way we look at it. Is it the bitochen part, as we said, or is it the emunah part? So the Rebbe said, "L'chura davor is kommen, as es ist da an afkemina lahalacha zwischen die zwei Teimen." Should come out that there is a difference in halacha between these two reasons. What kind of halacha difference can there be? Bahagdin says first given an introduction. Eine von den Chiluken zwischen emunah and bitochen is one of the difference between emunah and bitochen is like this. Emunah is a inyan tmidi. Emunah is constant. You always have emunah is something that's there always in your mind. It says the obgeleikkeit und gewisskeit by maimin. It's the fact, the clarity, and the fact that you really know the person who believes in something, whatever you believe in. That believing means that whatever you believe in is so true in your mind. You would really know, believe that it is the way you believe. So that emunah is always in the person's mind. Even if the emunah is not negated to anything that you're doing. You constantly have this emunah. I believe in something, and that emunah is always steady in the person's mind. For instance, in our case, the emunah as komas and this emunah that all the food and all the needs of a person comes to him b'ashgocha from the Eibishter. It doesn't make sense to say as a Leib nor beiser as a chesed v'parnosase. When does he believe it? When he's involved in making a living. Nor the emunah is tomei b'nafsh. The emunah is there. It's not dafka specific when he's going to business and he's going to do work. Then it's when he believes. He believes it constant. That's his belief. Which means you're so sure and you rely on Hashem in your parnasa, in your livelihood. That's a feeling that gets awakened in the person when you need it. When the person is involved in his work to make a living. Then he trusts Hashem, but Hashem will bless him, like the lotion of the pasuk. Don't think you did it. Hashem will bless you in everything that you do. That you feel when you're going to work, you have to keep in mind then that which is they say Hashem will certainly bless his action, which is his involvement, in a way that it'll bring a parnasa. So when is the inyan of bitochen? When you're involved in doing something to make a living, you have to have the bitochen that the Eibishter will give it to you. Or somebody, Rachmana litzlan, is in the tzore. He has a problem. He doesn't see any way naturally that he's going to get out of it. He'll be safe from it. So he doesn't give up hope, saying, well, where will my help come from? It's a lashon of the pasuk. No, that is zicher. If you have bitochen, you're sure. You trust in Hashem as the Eibishter, who is the boss over nature, and he could change nature. Let him zicher help him. So you feel it when you have it. Sorry, that's when the bitochen comes out. As Ezri mim Hashem eis Shemayim v'aretz. As my help comes from Hashem, who made the heaven and earth. So emunah is something that is constant. Not only when you're involved in parnasa, you have emunah that Eibishter gives you everything. Always you feel that. And bitochen is neseirer when you are involved making a living. Yeah, bitochen the Eibishter will give it to you. In order 14, the Rebbe adds that Hainu. I'll read it. The true is that if a person has bitochen, trust in Hashem, he always has. It's not something that only starts off when he's involved in business. He always has bitochen. Mikol came still, how you say it is to awaken and feel actually begili in a revealed way that he trusts Hashem. He dafke Hashem negei lepel. It's only when it's negei lepel. But emunah is always emunah is a philosophy that you have bichlal. Bitochen is that when you do something, you're trusting that it's going to happen. So that's something that's necessary when you need it, when you're involved, but not the union of emunah. So that's one difference in emunah bitochen. Nochmer, and there it goes further. The bitochen gufa is the kelev as is mamsha the yeshua for Eibishter milatzrochav. Not only, as we said before, that when you're doing something, you're going to work, you're starting a business, then comes the bitochen, but not generally you have bitochen like we said, but that's not, you don't feel the bitochen, but it's more. The bitochen, if your person has a problem or a person is in need of something, the bitochen is something that makes it happen. So it shows more the connection between bitochen and what you're involved in. Because if you have the proper bitochen, that's going to be mamshich. That's going to bring the broch of the Eibishter. The fact that you trust the Eibishter will make it happen. And the Rebbe explains here, das ist einer von der Biurim and the meaning of Midas HaBitochen. That's one of the explanations of what the inyan of bitochen is. But Mechura is not verstanden. At first glance, it's not understood. Bitochen meint doch, we know that bitochen means, as Aid is beteach ad Eibishter, vet im Meter sein beteva nire van Nigel Tafke. You trust Hashem, Hashem will be good to you and do good for you in such a way that you could see it, in a revealed way. That means, das heißt means, der Eibishter weiß, das ist gut für a Menschen, in addition to whatever that happens to you, and it comes from the Eibishter knows it's good, but bitochen means, is as be'efen as der Mensch wird sehen, as this is good for him. Bitochen means you trust that the Eibishter will make good, that you will see that it's good. So that's what bitochen is, that you will actually see that it's good. That's you, and you trust it. Trust it means, bitochen means you're sure that the Eibishter will make it happen. But the question is, this itself, that the person is in a bad situation, can doch sein, weil sein Einhog ist nicht gedeboi. It's possible because you're not behaving properly. Und der Fall kommt in der Reinische, you deserve a punishment. Is was der Yesod from sein bitochen? So what's the foundation for a person to be sure, or bitochen gomer v'amit, to be completely sure and really sure that the Eibishter will make it, that it'll be good, that you'll see it? What's meant by him is in them God can sofik nito. Bitochen means that you don't even have any doubt. He says it in ganz ruhig, and you're calm. That's what bitochen is, that you're completely calm. And he brings in the order. Chavis Alvavi says that means a person is calm. He has no daiges, no worries. He's so sure it's going to happen. How could you be sure? Ad Reibish wird ihm sicher nicht meinen, and you're sure that Eibishter will not punish you. Even though punishment is also good, because it helps you. But no, that's not what bitochen is. That even though you're being punished, you're sure that Eibishter will make it good. After Eibishter will make it that you will see the good. Why are you so sure? Maybe you deserve the punishment, and it'll stay there. What makes a person sure? So the explanation is like this: in Eibishter, when a person shows complete bitochen in Hashem. And by him is and it's clear, very simple to a person that Hashem will be good to him in a teva nira vanigel, in a good that's revealed. Trotzdem, was es nicht massen zu der tevedike cheshbenish und unsicht. And he has bitochen that the Eibishter will do it, even if you don't see any way that naturally is going to happen. You don't see how it can happen naturally, and you still have bitochen. It does gufa mamshich l'mayla. That bitochen that you trust Hashem so much brings from above. The Eibishter should behave with you measure for measure. The Torah says, and it's a halacha, a psak din, that's what Hashem does. Hashem does midah keneged midah. So therefore, if you trust so much Hashem, that Hashem will make it, that you'll be able to see the good, it'll become good in a way that you could see it. When Hashem is imeite b'teir v'nir v'niglu. So Hashem does it, midah keneged midah. And why are you sure? Because the Torah says Hashem does midah keneged. He says, "Ogepaskin den Torah that Hashem does that." So you're able to be sure that the Eibishter will turn it around and make it good, that you'll see it. Nicht gucken die klal if the cheshbein seri das wird. Despite not to take in consideration at all that you make a cheshbon, you can make a calculation that you deserve the punishment. So you have real bitochen. So this is all to stress more the idea that bitochen has to do with the tzorah that you have. That's the time when you awaken bitochen. And not only that, the bitochen makes the tzorah go away. That's bitochen. While amunah is something that's always there. It's not specific time. Now you're made it. Amunah is something that you believe that the Eibishter, in our case, that the Eibishter makes everything happen. The Eibishter is in control. But the bitochen that you will get what you need, that's something that only comes certain times. So what's that negaya? My knowledge movement, that's going to bring out the difference in halacha, whether we're talking about amunah or we're talking about bitochen, by the mod. My knowledge movement, from that we understand that the inyan for midas bitochen, that the inyan of bitochen, that says the seira is midah bepel, that the awakening of the midah of bitochen, in actual, when you really awaken and feel it, is verbunden mit bakosha tzrocha. It's connected to the fact that you're asking Hashem for your needs. When you are in need of something and you're asking Hashem to help, it comes along with that. That when you ask Hashem to help, you have to have the bitochen. Bitochen gets nisaira at the time when you need it. So it's a time when you're involved in asking Hashem what you need. That's when bitochen comes in. When the person is involved in receiving those things that he needs, is a beteach Hashem as Baruch Hu, as Baruch Hu with mal sein, with mal sein. So you are sure that Hashem Baruch Hu will fulfill what you need. Since this is connected to your asking for your needs, like in Thomas Amiras Parashas Amonis, could they durch them so that Odom decided when Liftei Hashem, according to the reason that the reason we say Parashas Amon is to awaken within you the bitochen in Hashem is yesh leimar, and the Parashas Amon so gesagt werden. So according to that, if it's the reason to have bitochen, it's possible to say that the saying of Parashas Amon should be number one, nor b'meisachel, only in the weekdays. Aber nicht bei Yom HaShabbos, not Shabbos, when es darf nicht sein, der Linie von Bakashas Rochav. Shabbos, you're not allowed to say in Shulchan Aruch that Shabbos, you're not allowed to ask for your needs. And bitochen, in the case where it comes together with asking for your needs, so Shabbos, you can't ask for your needs, so there's no feeling of bitochen especially. Actually, the mon itself didn't come down on Shabbos. Even though it came down every day, but not Shabbos. So it would be a possibility that if it's because of bitochen, you should not say it on Shabbos. That's number one. And even in the weekdays, you shouldn't say it. You don't need to say it in the beginning of davening. Just like when you ask Hashem for your needs, was this darf sein, the Seder, it says in the Gemara Brochus in Shulchan Aruch 29, the Rebbe gives the Maramokim. So it says there, Yisader Odom Shvocha Shel Mokim Achakach Yispalo. That first you should praise Hashem, and then you daven, which is Bakosha Sroch, asking for Hashem. So it should come out, if the whole union of Mon is to give you the bitochen, number one, you should not say it on Shabbos, because it has to be Bakosha Sroch. Number two, you should wait till after you daven, because first you got to praise Hashem, which is in davening, and then you say it. And when we find we find many Sidurim, and what gestellt Parshas Hamon lachrei Tefillah, that they printed Parshas Hamon to say, we don't actually say Parshas Hamon L'Peil, but the Siddur Alter Rebbe didn't put it in. But those that say Parshas Hamon, so usually it's before davening, but some Sidurim are after davening. Zusammen mit Tefillah Bakoshe Panos, it goes together with asking Hashem for your livelihood, etc., etc. So that comes out that if the reasons for bitochen should not be Shabbos, and you should say it after davening. But if it goes according to the reason that it should bring you a munah, that everything comes from the Eibishter, you could say it Shabbos, because it has nothing to do with your asking, because as we said before, a munah is always not tafke b'shas you're asking for your needs. We said before davening, in davening you praise Hashem, but you don't have to praise Hashem before, you don't have to say the mon after you praise Hashem. That's only if you're asking for your needs, it has to be first praising Hashem. But this is not asking for your needs. This is just the expression of your emunah. Because the emunah in Hashem, even the emunah concerning your needs, your food and your needs, is a ninyan was darf sein ständig. That's something that has to be. So l'chure, it would come out that's not only a difference whether it's bitochen or emunah, is the difference in the reason why we say Parshas Hamon, but it's also l'gei al. But the Rebbe says, no. In other words, the Rebbe says, I'm not so sure that the difference in halacha is true l'maise. Why? Because even in the second version that Alter Rebbe wrote, where he says the reason of bitochen, and according to what we said before, if it's bitochen, it's something that you shouldn't say on Shabbos. The Alter Rebbe says, even though he gives the reason of bitochen by the mon, he says it's good to say it every day. What's for the Meloshan is mashmeh, from the fact that he says every day, ados mein b'chol yom, keil Shabbos. It means every day, including Shabbos. And in Hora 32, the Rebbe says that this is an additional word of the Alter Rebbe. It doesn't say in the source. So the Alter Rebbe added the word b'chol yom. Why did he add it? But prashtas he added to tell you afilu Shabbos. Also, what we said before, that if it's bitochen, then even in the weekdays you should not have to say it after bitochen is only you should have to say it after davening. So it's the way the Alter Rebbe writes the expression that the only difference that he changed in Madura Tinyona over Madura Kame is the reason why we say it. And not because of this new reason, the bitochen, it's a change in any hagbole, any limitation, when you could say it. So He's mashman that the Alter Rebbe, even though in the Madura Tinyona he says the word bitochen, nevertheless it seems that you could say it on Shabbos. He holds you should say it on Shabbos, and you don't have to say it dafka after davening. With Frat Azech Madura Tinyona is the Alter Rebbe killed them din for the Miras Parshas Hamon with the Miras Parshas Aket V'Seres Adibris. We see another thing. In Madura Tinyona, the second version, when he speaks about saying Parshas Hamon, he goes together. You should say the Parsha of the Akedah. You should say Aseres Adibris. Nechmat Parshas Hakabonis. You should say the Karbonis. And he puts the Parsha Hamon together. And those things, those you say before davening. So it seems that Alter Rebbe holds that you could say it before davening, even though he says betochen. So the difference that we said before, whether it's Emunah and betochen, would be that if it's Emunah, then you could say it on Shabbos, and you could say it before davening. If it's because of betochen, you should not say it on Shabbos and say it after davening. But it's not true, because in Maduret Yonim, where the Alter Rebbe uses the word betochen, Liftei Hashem, he holds that you could say it on Shabbos, it seems, and he holds that you could say it also before davening. So now that we said it's no difference in halacha, the Rebbe doesn't say these words, but Leib the Shaila, now we have, so not a difference in halacha. It's a difference in reason. So the question is, why did the Alter Rebbe change? See, the Rebbe doesn't say what I'm going to say now. That if it would be Nigei al-Halacha, you could say he changed because he changed his mind in the Halacha. But if the Halacha, we see he didn't change. The only thing he changed in reason. So why is it that in the Bes Yosef and the Alter Rebbe himself, Madura Kame, says the union of Amunah, and comes to Madura Tinyon of the Alter Rebbe, he says the union of Bitochen. Why? And then this includes seemingly, again, the Rebbe doesn't say Befeirish, it includes what is now with a question, why Taka is it? That in Madura Tinyona, where he says that it has to do with Bitochen, nevertheless, he holds that you could say it on Shabbos. We explained before a good svara, that if it's connected to Bitochen, Bitochen is only when you're asking for your needs. So you shouldn't say it on Shabbos. And it's only after you praise Hashem. So there's another shaila, but the Rebbe didn't say Befeirish. There's another shaila which will get answered in the answer. So I think the Rebbe didn't ask it because it's included, that white taki is the din, according to the Madura Tinyona, that it's because of bitochen, and nevertheless you say it on Shabbos, and nevertheless you say it before davening. The Alter Rebbe holds it. Why? Wetten das verstehen, behagem abir will understand it by first explaining Hanhogas Rabbi Yasi Sove, the behavior of this person called Rabbi Yasi Sove, was erzählt in Zeya von Heintige Seder, in connection to Mon. The Zeya brings what Rabbi Yosef Sova used to do. And this is what it says he used to do. As a fact, he would prepare his food every day, his meal, only after he asked Hashem for the food. And he said, he would say, I'm not going to prepare my meal till I get it from Hashem. He's sorry, you have to understand. Since the food that he used to prepare for his meal was already by him, it says after he had it. All that was missing was to prepare it for the meal. The lotion of the Zayir is he had the food, so he had the food already. All it was missing was to prepare. What does it mean? As a bed by Meibishner, so them geben the Meichel is asking Hashem, give me the food. He's asking, give me the food, and the food is right there. What is this? He has it. What is he asking the Eibishter for? The beer, then you could say the pshat like this. It says, you do the beer from Bechai. There is a known beer explanation of the Rabbeinu Bechai, if Maimer Chazal, and this that the Chazal tell us, in Medrash and Rashi and Chumash, as Yosef is nanish geworden, the father was gebeten beim Saramashkim is getane rapare. That it says that after Yosef HaTzadik interpreted the dream for the Saramashkim Sara Ephim, and he asked the Saramashkim, since you will be back in your duties by Pare, do me a favor and mention me to Pare to get me out of here. It took 2 years. Really, he should have gotten out right away. He was punished for extra 2 years in jail because he relied on the Saramashkim, and people think the pshat means he didn't really rely on Hashem. He relied on the Saramashkim. He was punished. So the Rabbeinu Bechai says, "As chas v'sholem sheitla Yosef HaTzadik b'tchenim b'Saramashkim." Rag b'Hashem lo hadis. Chas v'sholem to say that Yosef put his bitoch and trusted the Saramashkim and not in Hashem. Can't say that he trusted only Hashem. What he meant was, when he saw the story with Saramashkim, he thought that the Eibishter made this story happen, that through him, the Eibishter will make Minyan. So you relied on Hashem, but he thought this was the Kele, the vessel, that through which the Eibishter will do the miracle. So why was Yosef punished? So the Ibn Machai says he was punished. He said, he looked for a Siba means a cause. He looked for a cause how the Eibishter's nest should happen. And he looked to the Saramashkan as being a cause. Through which the Eibishter will send the saving. He's saving. And it's not fit for tzaddikim in the caliber of Yosef to look for a cause. That's why he was punished. Should have relied, trusted in Hashem only. Shehu Bal Hasibis Kulon, he's the cause of all causes. Shehu Yazbin El Hasibim Mibilti Shevakeshway. David will find a way to do it. Why did he look for a way? And he finally found a way in Derech HaTeva through which Hashem will give him the bracha. He trusted Hashem, but he shouldn't even have looked for that. Shouldn't have waited for it. He should rely, whatever Hashem will decide how to do it, he shouldn't have looked for a reason. That's what Rabbi Machai says is the story with Yosef. Fragment of them, so it's asked, different memorim, the question is asked, it says clearly in Chayvas Alvovis, when you get to bitochen, that when you have bitochen, which means, as we said before, you trust 100% Hashem will give you the good. As he says, nevertheless, there's an obligation. You have to get involved in looking for ways that the Eibishter's bracha will come. When the bringt of them kamerais, brings many proofs. Why was Yosef punished for looking for a cause? That's what the Rebbe Chai says. He's mevayer, and the explanation is, there are two ways, two levels of a bitochen that Yid has. Okay, one way is when the Eibishter makes everything happen. That we know. So when the Eibishter's way of making things happen is in the way that it comes through nature, in the expression of Chassidus, if the Eibishter does it through Mamalak, we know there's Mamalak Kalam and a Seif Kalam. Mamalak Kalam is the Eir Hashem, which is nislabish, so to speak, into the nature of the world. Seif of Kalamin is the way the Eibishter comes in the world, but he's not mislabish, not dressed into the nature. So when the Anhag of the Eibishter is that it goes through nature, that's called through Mamalak Kalam, it goes through. That's the way the Eibishter behaves with the person. Is devil daf mezuchen asibe umachna kele in teve. So then you have to look for a cause and make a vessel in nature. Because if it comes through the Eibishter in such a way, so if it's that madrege, the Eibishter, you trust the Eibishter, and you know for sure it'll come milmaila, it'll come from above, but it'll come through the levushim of teve. And therefore, if it has to come through the levushim, through the garment, through the looks of, through nature, you have to find a natural way that you will find it, that through that the bracha of the Eibishter will come. But that's if your anhage is in the lower, in this madrege, which is lower madrege. Then there's a higher madrege, a second madrege. When a person sees that the behavior of the Eibishter to him is such a hanhage, such a behavior, that things are happening not naturally. Chassidus means it's a level of godliness which is beyond nature. If you see that you're in a level that the Eibishter does it without nature, then the bitochen has to be in a higher level. Rely completely on what the Eibishter will do. Don't do anything. To trust Hashem, Hashem will find a way to do it. But you don't think about looking for a way. Because as far as this Eibishter you see is doing things to you, it's beyond nature, so the nature doesn't count. Und Yosef war Tzadik, welcher ist ständig gewesen verbunden war wie das mit der Madrege, was ist Hecher von Teva. And Yosef war Tzadik, since he was always connected in his service of Hashem, with that higher Madrege, with Madrege of things which the way that Eibishter's connection is beyond Teva, so he should have behaved, and he should have felt that level of the higher level of bitochen, not to look for any sibbe. And that's what the pshat in Ibn Chai is, that he trusted in Hashem, but he looked for a sibbe. You have to look for a sibbe. So when the Chayvus Alvavah says you have to look for a sibbe, is only if you're in the lower level. So you have to trust Hashem will for sure give you, but you have to look that you should find the sibbe. But according to the high, if you're in the higher level, you don't look for a sibbe, and that was the punishment of Yosef. Now he said, the Rebbe says like this. So far, we're saying the difference is between the two levels, that the lower level, you have to look for a sibbe, because even though you trust Hashem, but you have to look for the way you look for a way Hashem should give it to you. And the higher level, you don't have to look for a sibbe. The Rebbe is going to say now that der chilik zwischen die zwei Yefanim in Bitochen, this that we said there at these two levels in Bitochen, is do b'shas macht yo a kele. That also if there is a kele. In other words, not only whether you have to make a kele or not, but when their kele is there, there's also a difference in the two levels. In other words, even if you're in the higher level, you don't need to look for a kele. But when the kele comes, how do you approach that look at the kele? And this is the pshat. This that according to in the first level, the person has to make a kele. Since the Eibishter brings on everything, you're in a level that the Eibishter brings everything to you naturally. So if you're in a level of mamalakala, and everything that the Eibishter gives you is in a lower level, is a natural level, so the nature means something, because you see the Eibishter is giving you everything through nature. Therefore, you have to look for a sibbe. So the first level, why do you have to look for one? Because nature means something to you. Why? Because the Eibishter does everything to you through nature, so nature is something. So the Eibishter wants, you should have bitochen that it will be good, the Eibishter will do it good, but you also have to look for a kele. The one that's holding at the higher level of bitochen, he doesn't have to do anything in order to. We should only trust Hashem. So the nature doesn't mean anything. Not only you don't have to look for it, it doesn't mean anything. But why doesn't he have to look for a kele or a cause in derech hateva? Because in that level, teva means nothing to you. When the riber, if teva doesn't mean anything to you, so even when there is a cause, what brought you parnosa, there is a kele in teva. Is ein parnosa durch dem nicht nennte geworden zu ihm, aber wir wollt nicht gehabt asibe bekele. The parnosa didn't get closer to you. The fact that you have a kele, that kele means nothing. In the first level, when the kele comes, you have to look for a kele. When the kele comes, kele is something important. You have to do the kele because the Eibishter gives you the bracha through the kele. But if you're in the higher level, you don't have to look for a kele. Say, therefore, even when the kele is there, big deal. The fact that the kele is there doesn't make your parnosa, whatever you need, closer to you than if you wouldn't have made the kele. Because this sibbe, this kele, that the vessel that you're making that's there, not making that it's there for the broch of the Hashem, doesn't mean anything to you. It's not something as an entity for itself. If you're in that level, you see everything as you get from Hashem. So therefore, the cause that in derech hateva, that is the way the Eibishter gives you the broche. Is a zach what the Eibishter macht farim zusammen with sein parnosa. The Eibishter makes it. In other words, that kele that the Eibishter is together with the fact that the Eibishter gives him his parnosa. In the lower level, there's a kele. The kele is something. It's only something because the Eibishter does it. The Eibishter makes it. But you have to you it means something because the Eibishter, his connection to you is through derech hateva. But if in higher from teva, the fact that there is a kele that is part of the Eibishter, he doesn't see the kele as an entity for itself. And in order 49, the Rebbe says, Kidua pirish razal bevahu yichal kelecha. There's a pasuk that says bevahu yichal kelecha, which simple pshat means he will feed you, he will support you. But in Chassidus it says bevahu yichal kelecha, he will make your kele. Chal kelecha is maloshin from the expression of kele. That normally you have to make a kele, and the Eibishter will give you the bracha. And bevahu yichal, he will give you the kele. The kele is part of what the Eibishter gives you. Und das ist die Asbor in Andogas Rabbi Yosef Sove, was hat gesagt. This is the explanation of what Rabbi Yosef Sove behaved. That he used to say, Leiniskin Sutze, that is Yavim B'Malki. I'm not going to make the Suda until I get the food from Hashem. He had the food there. So what was he saying? That Eibishter give me food and I'm not going to prepare it unless the Eibishter gives it to me. What does that mean? So the answer is, but Rabbi Yosef Sove given the Reifen from Mitochen, but Rabbi Yosef Sove was in the higher level of Mitochen. So he was in such a way as everything that happened, he saw everything on its own. It's not something he's doing. He had the food, but that's not him having the food. Nor asinim in Hashem. Everything is from Hashem. Like we said before, the higher level, even the keli is part of what Hashem is giving you. And it's not a mitzvah for itself. Therefore, even when he had the food in his house, he had it. Und darf es nur nehmen und zugreifen, to take it and prepare it. Fühlt dass nicht sein Eichel, was nimmt und gerät ihm zu. He didn't feel that it's his food, and he's taking his food, and he is preparing his food. Nor what did he feel? As is I'm being given from Hashem the King. Those get him eats the Eibishter. Now when he's preparing it and he's having it, the Eibishter is giving it to him. Even though it's derech hatevet, he had the food already. It's the Eibishter. But mele darfer of them sheil zaim kam kodesh since it's giving by everything is Hashem. This is Hashem too. He has to even for this, he has to ask Hashem. Just like if he doesn't have food, he's asking Hashem, give me food. So even if he has it, that having it in derech hatevet means nothing. So he's asking Hashem because he looks at what he has is because Hashem is giving us. He asked for it. Like this explanation, we could explain another thing that we see in the behavior of Rabbi Yosef. For Slimus Loshen HaZeir, from the way the Zayah writes the wording, that he did not prepare his meal every day, it says every day, till he asked Hashem, give me the food. He's mashman from that seems it says every day, he did this on Shabbos too. It's not simple. Shabbos is not as mafim bakoshes rochav. Shabbos, you're not allowed to ask for your needs. So how did he ask for his food? Even on Shabbos, when you're not allowed to ask for your needs, that's the din. You're not allowed to ask for, like we said before, you're not allowed to ask for your needs on Shabbos. Now let's verstehen, based on what we said before, we understand this. The bakoshes rochav was darfen sein bei ihm Shabbos. This then on Shabbos. You shouldn't ask for your needs. When the person is asking because he needs it, he feels, I need the food. He cares about his mitzias. When you feel something you need and you want Hashem to fill your need, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. This is ein Tfille gekommen, dafke der Fahr, was ein mitzias hat bei ihm im ganzen nicht gewähnt. He asked for this was completely because the Metzias Gashmi did not mean anything. He didn't care about himself at all. Nothing Gashmi he cared about. It's not that he's looking to fulfill his needs. For every move he made, every step he took, he felt that it all depends on Hashem. So everything is Hashem. And with the Zayir the Zayir over there says, as if and this behavior, the Posik says, Posik in Tilim, those that hope for Hashem's kindness. The Zayah says, who does this mean? The mitzapon and mechakon, that they hope and wait. Every day they wait to ask for their food from Hashem. That's told Miyachel Mechazdei, and it says every day, including Shabbos. The fact that he's asking for the food on Shabbos, he's not just asking that he needs it. He wants to express that he feels that everything is from Hashem. But they feel you feel that everything from Hashem. This davening for food, this type could be on Shabbos also. So if you have that higher level of bitochen, you could ask for your needs from Shabbos too, because it's not asking for your needs. So now this is going to be the basis, the Rebbe, to answer the kasha he asked, why in one place he brings a munad el place in bitochen, and as I said before, also this will answer, according to what it says, it's bitochen, and bitochen is part of bakosha srochav. How could you do it on Shabbos? And why don't you have to wait for first praising Hashem? So the Rebbe says like this: even though this behavior of Yesesov is not something for everybody, a little bit of it. This is a Losham Tanya where he says that what you should learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. He says even though no one can compare Chas v'Shalom to Moshe Rabbeinu, but we can learn a little bit from him. So we could learn sometimes, at least sometimes, to follow at least a little bit in the ways of Rabbi Yesesov. And you could say this following Rabbi Yesesov's behavior, that's the difference in the weekdays and Shabbos. During the weekdays, when the Yid behaves like it says in Shulchan Aruch, what does it say in Shulchan Aruch? You got to daven, got to have a sheen and learning, and then yelech lasok, then go into your business. But yisav yitin b'munah, you should do business, do business properly. Fanume minyone panos, you have to be connected to your livelihood. So during the week, when you have to work, is by im betochen neifn as sucht as sibe bekele. So obviously, since you're going to work, you're looking for a way, a siba, a cause for the Eibishter, a kele for the Eibishter giving him his brocha. Weil man kann von ihm nicht monnen, der soll sich den Dämmel aufheben im ganzen Hecher von Teva. You can't expect a Yid during the week when he's going to work to pick himself up completely beyond nature und halten bei der Hecher in Bitochen, to hold by the higher level of Bitochen. So in the weekdays, you're usually in the lower level of Bitochen. Shabbos is not a day of mice of action, like it says in Tanakh and Yecheskel, but Yid is hecher from Malocha, Yid is higher than work. So then you have something, at least a little bit of the level, of the higher level of Bitochen, believing that everything is the Eibishter, at least to a certain degree, and be in the level of Amyachim Lachazdei. So maybe we could say Adosi de Asbore for the Mchilik Sishna Madura Kamba Madura Tinyona from Alterem Shechonora and the Gale Amiris Pasha Samon. Now we'll understand the difference. Why in Madura Kame he used the word Emunah, didn't say Bitochen, and in Madura Tinyona he used the word Bitochen. And the difference is like this. The fact is that we say Pasha Samon on Shabbos also. Those that say it, or what it says in Shechonora, to say it means on Shabbos also. But the difference is why. So the Alter Rebbe wanted to explain. In Madura Kama, we understand why he says you should say it always, even on Shabbos, because Amunah is always. The question is Madura Basra, that there he says it's Bitochen, and Bitochen is connected to Bakosha, so asking for your needs, that shouldn't be a Shabbos. So the Rebbe explains like this. The Madura Kama that Alter Rebbe geschrieben later Achro from Gemara in Poskim. The Madura Kama, the first version, the Alter Rebbe wrote according to the decision of the Gemara, based on the Gemara Nigle, on Haloch and Poskim, the Haloch. And he quotes the Shulchan Aruch. Alter Rebbe quotes that. Since bitochen in simple way, the way it's a nigle, is an aneifim as memuz machen a kele, is a way that you have to make a kele. We said before the lower level is that you have to make a kele. Is eib mizal bringen al stam lamiras parshas hamon. So if you're talking about in nigle, and the reason why, so if you would say there that the reason for saying the mon is lifteya b'Hashem to have bitochen in the Eibishter, then you should only say the weekdays and only after davening. So the Alter Rebbe, when he writes al pinigle in the first version of the Shulchan Aruch, he writes everything al pinigle, and the Alter Rebbe wanted that to show that you have to say it on Shabbos also, and you could say it before davening. So the only way you could explain it by saying it's Emunah. The Far Zog der Alter Rebbe B'Amdura Kamash, that's what he says there. At the time for Amiras Parshas B'chol Yom, that the reason you say it every day is because sheyamin shekol mazenei seboim b'ashgacha, to have Emunah. Because if it's because of Emunah, you could say it on Shabbos too. So since in the Madura Kame he's talking to Apenigle, and Apenigle, the union of Bitochen, the union of Bitochen is something that is you shouldn't do on Shabbos. And the Alter Rebbe wanted, and said that the Beis Yosef also wanted that you should say it every day. So he gives the reason of Amunah, and Amunah is not connected to Machkoshes Rochav. And he wants it should also be able to say it before davening. So what reason can he give? He gives the reason of Amunah. So because if you have Amunah, you could do because Amunah is not connected to your asking, as we said before. In the second version, but the Alter Rebbe machlikim kemekabolim. There, the Sharakel Rebbe says, and others says that the Alter Rebbe was paskening according to Kabbalah also. So Madura Tinyon is connected also to people who are in a higher level. So their service of Hashem in a higher level. On their far, and therefore, that's why in Madura Tinyon he says the word Lifteach. Because there, even though you have Bitochen, but it's and Betochen in a higher madrege, because he's talking in a higher madrege. So if Betochen is in a higher madrege, then you can have a Shabbos also. Is Bekoshes Rochov? It's not, because we said before, if you're in a higher madrege, you're allowed to ask, because you're not asking for your needs. It's not your needs. And it doesn't fall into the category of Rochov that you don't need, that you should say it after you say Shvach Mokif. If you're in a higher level of Bitochen, which is the level Hamyachalim Lachazna, he said before, that hope for his chesed in all ways, Ken Zayin Amiras Parshas Zaman B'chol Yom Eich B'Shabbos Ulifnei Atfilah. You could say it every day, even on Shabbos, because that level of Bitochen has nothing to do with Bekoshes Rochav. So now we see the difference why in Madura Kama he says the inyan of Amunah, because he couldn't say Bitochen, because in the level of Madura Kama, which is Nigla, Bitochen is a level which you wouldn't have to say on Shabbos, and you couldn't say before davening. So there he says the inyan of Amunah, which therefore you could say on Shabbos, because Amunah is always nothing to do with Kosher Srochav, and the same thing with doesn't have to be after davening, after Sadeh Shemach Shemokim. But in the second Madura Basra, where there he talks about also higher levels, so there he could say Bitochen and still say Yechayiv to do the Shabbos. Because Bitochen in the higher level, even though it's connected to Bakasha Tzrocha, it's not the real din of Bakasha Tzrocha that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Like we said before, this type of Bakasha you're allowed to do on Shabbos, and it doesn't fall in the category of the regular Bakasha Tzrocha. The only thing is, in the last Hora 63, the Rebbe asks a question on his own beer, and he says, Tzorachim, we still have to understand, this category of people who are in the higher level of Bitochen is a minority. And the quotes from the Gemara Brocha, many people behaved like Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says you got to go to work. So most people in their level of work. So why would the Madura Basra give the reason which is Shaykh's only to higher Madregas? So there must be an explanation. The Rebbe doesn't go into. He just tzorechim. We still need to understand even after this explanation. But this is not the majority of people. But obviously there is an explanation. I don't want to say anything because I don't know which explanation is right. But the whole beer is the beer that in Madura Tinyone, it fits to the higher Madrega, and therefore the Bitochen is higher, and therefore the Alter Rebbe brings it to show why you could do it on Shabbos and before davening, because in the higher level of Bitochen you could.